If you're planning on attending a high school reunion soon, you should really consider driving an Aston Martin to the event. I guarantee you'll impress your significant other's friends while secretly driving a Ford Fusion. Essentially, an Aston Martin is the equivalent of wearing a nice tuxedo over a dirty pair of underwear. Sure, it looks good, but underneath its sharp lines and fancy buttons, it's just a big pile of poo. Now, the truth is, I've not driven this car not even an inch, mainly because it won't actually drive, and while it's possible I'm being a bit harsh, I just can't imagine a car that was developed by Aston Martin under the ownership of Ford and littered with parts out of two of the most undesirable car brands that I can think of doesn't sound like it would make for an outstanding driving experience, which is what you would expect for a starting price of over $115,000 back in 2007. And to add insult to the cost of the car, the cost of the parts are absurd. For example, a clutch kit just for the parts costs $4,000 US. That is until you break out a ruler, measure its dimensions, and make a single phone call. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you how we can source a better solution for about 90% less. Now, the as-is auction price of my specific Aston Martin was only 25 grand, or the same price as your average new Ford Fusion. So if I can get this V8 Vantage to actually drive, it should make me look rich enough that the valet will park it in front of the PF Chang's, and my Tinder date will definitely be impressed enough to let me have her leftovers even after splitting the bill. And plus, buying this car was a good change of scenery. You see, in the past, it used to be that I'd buy a Ferrari, fix it, and then it would break. Then I'd fix what broke and something else would break, so I bought another Ferrari. And guess what happened to it last week? Well, it broke. You know, it's like when you're fishing and you just can't catch anything. You don't keep doing the same thing over and hope for the best. You gotta change things up. My solution was to get Fishing Clash, which is free to download using my link in the description box. Before I got Fishing Clash, my rod never got any action, and now I can't keep them away. And there's no lack of action here as you travel across the world and seek the biggest and rarest catch, like at the Amazon River where I snagged this beautiful peacock bass. Fishing Clash is super fun and intuitive. Pick your lure, cast your rod, and reel her in. All right, we're gonna cast off in Lake Gunnersville. Let's hope for something rare. See what we got. We got a good one right here, an epic striped bass. Upgrade your lines, lures, and rods and duel with a fellow fisherman or compete in one of the many weekly events. The biggest, best catches win, so level up and become a Fishing Clash master. You gotta check out Fishing Clash. It's free on both iOS and Android when you click my link in the description box, and after you download it, make sure you use my code FISHWITHSAM, because not only do I catch the best fish, I'm gonna get you started with $20 in add-ons, including a 3-star rod, 1 mythical lure, the Florida Pro license, and 30-weight power-ups, which is gonna help you take home those really big fish. Now I gotta give a huge thanks to Fishing Clash for sponsoring this video. All right, let's hope this works. I've got this bearing puller set up. I tried the slide hammer before and it just was not coming out square, and obviously we're working with a limited amount of space down here. But I've got a replacement pilot bearing and rear main seal. It's just the sort of stuff that you got to do when you're doing these jobs so that you don't do them twice, and they're cheap insurance. So this is kind of slow, but again, let's hope this just kind of grabs it and yanks it out square. Okay, it's starting to get sideways, but you can see it's coming out. Come on, right there. There it is. So here's our old one. We'll grab our new one, make sure we put it in the right way, and yeah, just grease it up a little bit, and then we'll grab this rear main seal out right here. All right, this is one of the more nerve-wracking parts of the job, and that's taking out the rear main seal. So I like to just start by drilling a hole in the seal itself. Here is to go with a small drill bit first, and then just go slow. Oh, right there. Okay. Yeah, that's in there. All right, now I want to make sure I'm not touching anything. I'm not touching anything, and I kind of just want to rest this up against the seal itself and pull. I don't want to hit this area. Come on. Come on. There it is. All right. Let's see. I hate this job every single time, but we don't want to throw this away yet, because what we'll do is we'll reverse it and we'll use it to tap in our new rear main seal. But I'm going to feel around here first. Everything feels pretty good. I'm going to clean it all off. We'll oil up our replacement and then slide it in. Now check this out, that rear main seal we just pulled out, I was in a pinch to get one of these. I called the local Aston Martin dealership, which is not very local, and they wanted $100 for this.
Wholesale was closer to 75. That is absurd for a rear main seal. To put it in perspective, that Ferrari back there, rear main seal off of just a generic parts site was like $33. And any rear main seal I've done on like a generic BMW is anywhere between like 10 and 20 bucks. So 75 is absurd. But I went and looked this part number up and then cross-referenced it to a Jaguar rear main seal. I went on Rock Auto and picked up this one right here. It has the same stampings on it. I'm pretty sure that these are basically the same exact parts. This one cost $7. $7! But it gets a little bit better than that. So while I was buying all this stuff and the fact that we have all the oil dumped out of it, I need to get an oil filter and an Aston Martin oil filter. Wholesale is like $40. Well, the same thing on the Ferrari. It's just crazy, right? So let me show you this quick trick I do when I'm shopping on Rock Auto. And it's fun for me, but in this case, it ended up saving me a bunch of money. If you click on the little RSS icon right next to the make and model you're shopping, and then on the next page, click the blue HTML icon on the right side here. It shows you all the clearance items for your car. And check this out. They literally have an oil filter for $1.10. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with Rock Auto. If you're not, I'm going to drop a link in the description box because, like, who doesn't love dollar oil filters and $7 rear main seals? Seriously, check out that clearance trick I showed you. And right now, I want you to get a little closer, show you the difference between these two oil filters because it's really hardly anything. The aftermarket one looks slightly taller, but I tell you that's because the lip protrudes a little bit more on top here versus the Aston Martin one is pretty flat. We've got oil passages up top. We've got the same cartridge style on both, basically. And then we have the spring inside, again, on both. So $1 for this, $40 for this. Do you see any major difference? I have no qualms putting this in my car. Let me know if you would in the comment section below. Let's go put that rear main seal in, and then we'll install our dollar oil filter.
Our put in a rear main seal can be easy, but it could be difficult. I've got oil loaded all around the outside and inside edges here. Now, the best tip I can give you when installing a rear main seal is go and push this inside seal in all around. Kind of just grab it and flex it in as best as you can. And I got oil all inside the crank area here so that things kind of try and slide on properly. But basically what you don't want is this inside seal pushing outwards. All right, so you can see the seal is on, but it's not in. And again, we don't want to push it too far in. We kind of want to push it where it was in its original place. You got to do this really slow and uniformly. The biggest mistake, all right, you can see the seal is on the crank, but it's not pushed in. And so again, we've got to be really careful when we're pushing it in, because one of the other mistakes I've made in the past is that rooster, shut up. All right, you can see the seal is sitting on the crankshaft, but it's not pushed in all the way. You see how it's just popped out like that? The big thing is here, the rooster, shut the it's pretty much stuck right there. So we got to tap it in very gently. Okay, we're gonna have to do this with the rooster, guys. I'm sorry, but all right. I've seen people take like extensions and then tap it in. We want to keep this seal as nice as possible, so I don't want to like put any stress areas in it. So here's a trick I learned from that freaking rooster. Jeez. So you take your old rear main seal, okay? And then we're gonna put it on in reverse, just like right here. Now the next thing is get the smallest mallet. Get the smallest mallet you have. Shame on me for not having a smaller mallet, and just give it a few little taps.
This actually took quite a while. This is one of the snuggest rear mains I put in. One time I tapped a little too much and the whole entire thing went crooked and I had to restart from new. So again, the process on this car, slow and steady. I haven't really had that problem on many others. This looks really good to me and I'm excited because we're almost ready to install the clutch and I can't wait to show you what we're gonna use on this car.
All right, we got a little oil around the rim here and threads right in perfectly. I just love figuring out stuff like this. $1 for an oil filter. I don't think I've ever gotten an oil filter cheaper than $1.10 is what this costs. You don't want to tighten this too much, just until it gets slightly snug. We're good. What did we just save from buying on Rock Auto?
Probably 40, 50 bucks.
40, 50?
Just for the filter, right? That was
the filter was, yeah, 39 on the filter. We saved 39, yeah, 39 on the filter, and then we paid 7 on a, let's say $75. We saved 70 on that. Dude, that's over. We saved over 100 bucks. As I've said way too many times recently, the price of a replacement clutch from Aston Martin is absurd. To get a new one of these at the parts counter will run you a couple grand. That comes along with a pressure plate. And the aftermarket has stepped in and said, wait a minute, if people are willing to pay $2,000 for this, what else could we get them to buy? You can buy an upgraded clutch kit for my car that runs around $4,000, and I guess it's better. Is it a couple $1,000s better? To put things in perspective, a manual 335i or a manual Audi S4 clutch kit would probably run you between $300 and $500 tops. What's so different between a clutch that would go in one of these cars that can handle up to about 500 horsepower and our 380 horsepower V8 Vantage? The answer is not much, at least not thousands of dollars worth the difference. If we take this clutch and break it down to its most basic form, it'll show us how we don't have to spend thousands of dollars to replace the clutch in our Aston Martin. All a clutch is a metal disc. In this case, it's a 10.5-inch metal disc, lined on either side with this organic friction material. And it has an input shaft that's a little bit over 1 inch in diameter with 26 teeth. Now type those dimensions in Google and check this out. There are a bunch of different clutches available for sale with the same exact dimensions as our Aston Martin clutch, starting at well under $200. Now, will they fit? I would bet that most, if not all of them, will, but there is one last dimension that you want to be aware of. This area here on the pressure plate side of the clutch, this area that protrudes out, you need to measure its offset. Go ahead and compare it with the one on the aftermarket clutch. If it's grossly different, you might have a fitment problem. But this whole entire plate is held in with rivets, and people have been modifying aftermarket clutches for a long time to get them to fit their stock applications. A lot of people are buying $50 Bronco clutches and fitting them to their Porsches. So it's a very similar concept here. Now, this process is virtually identical on most makes and models, so if you have an older Aston Martin or maybe a Porsche, something where they charge a ridiculous amount for a clutch at the dealer, now you've got an alternate solution. If our only real affordable solution was to replace our worn clutch disc with one of the ones I showed you earlier for a couple $100, I would definitely bought one of those and made it work. But if you remember, I got my clutch relined on the Ferrari, and it cost about 1/3 of the price of a factory Ferrari clutch kit. Clutch relining has been around for a long time, but it's something that's not really prevalent in modern day because the prices of clutches have come down so much. Clutch reliners or rebuilders simply remove the rivets attaching the friction material to a clutch like this one right here. They clean off the metal plate underneath it, and then they apply a new adhesive, new rivets, and new lining to your existing clutch. There's only one problem with my existing clutch. You hear that? Got a couple broken springs. And that's what Chris from Kentucky Clutch let me know whenever I sent this one to him to get relined. Let me just backtrack one step. Initially, I went on Google and searched locally for clutch relining or clutch rebuilding, and I found nothing in my area. So then I did a broad search, and the first result was Kentucky Clutch. I called their number, and their owner, Chris, answered the phone, and I explained the dilemma here with the Aston. He told me it doesn't matter the make, the model, or even the type of vehicle. It could be a farm vehicle for all it matters. They do clutches. Whether they source a replacement, reline it, or even construct a custom clutch, they can do everything. Now, one of the really interesting things that I didn't even think of that Chris explained to me is it's really good to have the clutch, pressure plate, and flywheel all together when they're servicing it, because when they skim a layer off the top of the pressure plate, they can compensate in what they took off the pressure plate so that your clutch will still last as long as it should. Anyway, I packed everything up, shipped it to them, and Chris called me to tell me that he didn't really want to reline my clutch, specifically because of the worn springs, and that it'd be a better idea to just craft a new one. And I'm going, how do you guys even do this? He told me not to worry. He had already ordered a new disc and even sent me some of the video of his crew working on my pressure plate and flywheel. It's just such a cool process, and I hope to one day make it down there to actually check it out in person. The guys over at Kentucky Clutch came up with this as our solution, a 6-puck Kevlar line clutch. This will probably be the first in an Aston, so I'm really excited about it. But a lot of you guys watching that are familiar with performance clutches, and especially puck clutches, are going, why are you going to put a puck clutch in an Aston? Isn't it going to mess with its drivability? And actually, a lot of people forget that what messes with the drivability on a clutch more than anything is the lining. A lot of puck clutches come with a ceramic lining, which is like an on-off switch. They don't allow for a lot of slip, so they're very abrupt when the clutch engages. This has a Kevlar lining. Kevlar differs from organic in the fact that if you slip it a bit, it doesn't just turn into dust, and it still does slip. Kevlar is known to last like up to twice as long than a factory organic lining, so this is an incredible solution. And get this, all for about $400. That includes getting my flywheel resurfaced and my pressure plate rebuilt. This is an extraordinary deal, and I want to thank the guys at Kentucky Clutch. No, this is not sponsored. They're just willing to work with me, and they're open to making a clutch, like I said, for whatever. So if you need a clutch for a custom project, and especially if you've got an older exotic and don't want to get ripped off going the dealer route, make sure you contact them. I'm going to drop all their information in the description box. But our flywheel's in place, but it's not torqued to spec. So I got my torque wrench right here, and I've got a pry bar sitting in the teeth on the edge of the housing here, and then it is wedged in place with that block of wood. So I'm gonna put my camera down, we're gonna torque all these to around like 70 foot-pounds there. All right. All right, ready to put the clutch in. And now before I put the clutch on, it's a good idea to just do this real quick. Just clean this area of the flywheel off because I've have my hands on it and you just don't want really any grease or anything. So a little bit of brake clean, go around. All right, so I had this clutch alignment tool from the Ferrari 360, and you know, we talked about clutch sizes, the spline size and all that. This is the wrong size. It's too loose when you put it in here. So if you're doing a clutch job, a lot of times your kits will come with a clutch tool. Just go ahead and get one because they're like just a few bucks. So I am using this makeshift one right here. This is a 3/8 extension, the 3/8 13 millimeter socket that fits snugly in here, but sitting on the shaft of the extension, I've got a 1/2 inch drive 19, which fits the center section of the clutch perfectly. So we're gonna sit it like this. Sage, go ahead and hand me the clutch. We're gonna take our makeshift tool, slide it in here. The flat side is the side that sticks to the flywheel. And then I'm gonna look from underneath. Here, sit this in the center. Like that. All right, and look, we're aligned. So I got this makeshift tool idea from another guy on YouTube, so shout out to him. We'll go ahead, stick our pressure plate on, bolt it in place, and then this thing goes all back together. There we go. Oh. Give me a towel, please. Okay, well, that was worthless. Look, it broke the fitting right off. Hopefully we could source one of those at the auto parts store. It's not down on time, but here we go. Get the other one out. This one came out no problem. As usual, something breaks as you're right near the end of the project. So on either side of our throwout bearing, which we are replacing, there are lines that run out of the torque tube. This one that came out just fine, well, it is the feed line for the clutch fluid. So this part runs up into the car and then ultimately goes to the reservoir. The clutch fluid is just brake fluid, but it all came out whenever we disassembled this, so we definitely need to bleed it, and that's what this line is for right here. The line where the threads just broke off of. Now that goes into here, and it simply just runs out of the torque tube like this so that you can access the bleeder valve here. Now luckily we shouldn't have to replace this whole hose. It's just this fitting, which unfortunately doesn't look like a generic fitting, something I'll be able to run out and get, but there's a chance that maybe the dealership has it, and I mean, come on, how much would they charge for something like this? Either way, Sage is on the phone right now with him on hold, and we'll find out in a moment. So this is a brand new throwout bearing here, and this right here, this is the inlet where the fitting broke. What I did is I found this bolt right here, and the thread's in here perfectly, as you can see. So I've come over here to my handy dandy little tester. This is a metric 8 with a 1.25 thread pitch.
Takes less than a week, I would say around 4 days. It's 115.91.
115 bucks? I appreciate your time. Thank you. No way.
115 bucks just for that little.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so I went and measured the size of the inlet. It's a metric 8 by 1.25. So let's see what we can fit here. Here we go again. Over $115 for a little fitting. And no, they're not trying to sell me the entire assembly. It is just that fitting. And if you look at the end of the fitting, it's got a little O-ring on it. So it probably is a wear item that seeps over time. And I guess Aston Martin thinks they can get 115 bucks for it. Well, they're not gonna get that from me. I've never seen a brand nickel and dime anybody so much, not even Ferrari. I mean, the prices are insane. That's why we're doing everything out of the box on this car. And if you enjoy watching this process, and especially if you've learned something from these videos, be sure to hit that like button. Also, only like 1 in 3 of everybody watching is actually subscribed to the channel. So if you like to see my mishaps with exotic cars and sometimes my successes with exotic cars, actually I should do it in reverse, be sure to hit the button and subscribe. Now the cost savings on this project aren't done yet. Besides the fitting, we had something that was severely damaged up front on the car, had to be repaired before we put it all back together. No, it's not the front bumper. It's a part that, again, from Aston cost over $2,000. And I really didn't think I was gonna get out of this one, but we figured out another solution for it, and I can't wait to show it to you coming up next once it is fitted, along with the torque tube. Once we get the throwout bearing line all sorted, well, we're gonna have a car that we're gonna be able to turn over and run. And I'm hoping the wheels in the back actually turn. And we're gonna be doing it for a price well under 30 grand. That is my goal. If we did everything by the book and bought all the parts through wholesalers or the dealer, we would be touching mid-30s on this car. And remember, we're putting in all the labor here, so it really wouldn't be worth the effort considering you can buy these cars in the 40s retail in really good condition. And this one, well, you've seen its condition. Also, I'm out on the hunt looking for some stock parts. Let me know what you guys think about this car fully restored to original condition, or if you kind of like its modded state with the air suspension and the gold wheels. I think that it looks kind of fun, but I don't really know how it'll all work together in the real world, and I think that's gonna be the real test. I gotta give a quick thanks to Fishing Clash for sponsoring this video. It's a great game, and you can download it at the link in the description box. And as always, I wanna thank each and every one of you for watching today. I'll catch you very soon.